Alright, everybody, it's time to finally review the first Marvel's Avengers film, and I'm so excited because I love this movie. Some people say it's the greatest comic book movie of all time. I don't know about that, but it's at least top 5 for me, and I really enjoy this movie. I think it's a great way to bring all these characters together that we were building up in Phase 1, so I'm excited to talk about this movie. Let's get into The Avengers. So the movie opens up with a character called The Other talking to Thanos about sending Loki to Earth to retrieve the Tesseract. In return, he's going to use the Chitauri army to conquer Earth. So we're picking up the Loki storyline. Of course, we saw him back in the first Thor movie. And then we don't know that he's talking to Thanos yet, but it's obviously revealed at the end of the movie that he's talking to Thanos. And then we learned that S.H.I.E.L.D. has the Tesseract because we saw Howard Stark bring it out the ocean and Captain America First Avenger, so S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been holding on to it in some sort of super secret underground base, and they're looking at using it for sustainable energy sources. And Fury even mentions early on about getting the Type 2 prototype ready, and we obviously learned that those are weapons of mass destruction. We'll get back to that a little bit later. So this whole opening in the beginning, we get introduced again to Eric Selvig from the first Thor movie, and also Hawkeye, who had a cameo in the first Thor movie. He comes in here too, and I like the line Hawkeye says, something about, doors open both ways, and the Tesseract's a door to the end of space. I'm not sure if that's how the Tesseract works. I don't know if in this movie they knew it was the Infinity Space Stone yet, because it doesn't seem how it works any other way. It doesn't seem like you can open it up from any... You have to have it to open up the portal, so it might be a little bit of a retcon, considering maybe they didn't know where they were going yet. But I just like the line. It's kind of cool. And then, of course, Loki comes through, and he automatically just takes over Selvig and Hawkeye with the scepter. And then he gets the Tesseract, and he leaves, blowing up the whole underground base. But, of course, Coulson, Nick Fury, and his right-hand woman, Maria Hill, they escape. And so Coulson's tasked with kind of rounding up the team. So that means putting the Avengers together. And then we get the introduction to Natasha Romanoff, a.k.a. Black Widow. She's in Russia. She's doing an interrogation, although it looks like she's being tortured. And this is a great scene because I just love how she's like really in control of the whole thing. And then she just like breaks out while she's tied to a chair and stuff. It just shows like what her skill set is and what she can bring to the team, and how good of a spy she is undercover and stuff. And so she just comes off as a really badass character in this moment. And then I like when Coulson tells her to get the big guy, and you can see the look on her face like she's terrified because she's the one that has to go recruit the Hulk, or Bruce Banner. And then we meet Bruce Banner in India helping people, although he's not like a medical doctor, but he is like a smart guy, so I'm sure he still can help people. And then I like the whole scene where he meets with Natasha, and he's kind of like playing her a little bit. And I like the moment where he says, "Stop lying to me," and she kind of breaks her cover and reveals that she's armed, there's a team out there. And so it's kind of interesting because, he kind of beat her at her own game a little bit. But it's also just like another kind of, like everybody's just playing the game, And it's just really kind of cool scene, and it's a great introduction to Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner, no longer Edward Norton. And it's a very different type of character than Bruce Banner that we saw in The Incredible Hulk, but of course there's some references to that movie in here as well. And then we get introduced to Captain America in the boxing at the gym, and he's just having like some flashbacks about the first Captain America movie, and he's punching the bag, and I love that he just like punches it so hard he knocks it off and actually like busts it open and sand's pouring out, and then he just like picks up another one like it's nothing and hangs it and just keeps going. So it kind of shows you Cap's mental state and where he's at, and I think it's only supposed to have been like a week or two since he's been out the ice, and so this is what he's kind of been doing. And it's just a really good scene because it also shows like where Cap's strengths are at too. He's really good at boxing, and he's very strong. And then, of course, Nick Fury comes to recruit him to help with the Tesseract. And Steve doesn't really seem that interested. He tells them they should have left the Tesseract in the ocean. And so it's just a great introduction to this Cap in this modern time period. And it's really great. All the introductions here are really solid. The introduction to Iron Man and Tony Stark is also great, with the Stark Tower, and the scenes with Pepper that he has are a lot of fun. Not a lot of Pepper in this film, but the scene she does have is, I think it works really well. The whole 12% joke was funny. And so Coulson comes in to recruit Tony to help find the Tesseract, and then they mention the Avengers initiative and how he didn't qualify and everything. And then I just kind of love the kind of relationship that Tony and Pepper have in this scene, and where she understands that he has to go and do this and everything can wait later. And you learn that Stark Tower is a self-sustaining energy building, which is really cool. Of course, that comes in kind of later on in the film. And it's also just, fun to see, because Coulson was in Iron Man 1 and 2, and he worked mostly with Pepper, I think. So it's kind of cool to see them have a little bit of a rapport. She's like asking about the girlfriend from Portland and stuff. And so, it's really good to kind of incorporate Coulson, who's been the side character in these movies, into a little bit of a more elevated role, and really kind of see what he does do for S.H.I.E.L.D. and everything. So I really like that introduction to Tony Stark as well. And then we get Coulson bringing in Captain America, and I love how awkward he is. He's like kind of like fanboying, and doesn't want to come off too strong and everything, and he's wants to get him to sign up the trading cards, and he even have designed his new suit and everything. And I just love that, because that's that really kind of represents the fans of these movies, and it's just a really cute moment and everything. And then of course we get the scene on the helicarrier. I love where Steve meets Bruce for the first time, and they think it's a submarine, and then it's not. It actually flies, and it's just really cool kind of scene to introduce these characters. Black Widow's introducing Cap to Bruce, and we're starting to integrate the team a little bit better. And the helicarrier is really cool because it's like a Navy carrier boat, but it also flies. So I thought that was a really cool concept when I first saw it, and it still looks amazing even now, and I really love that scene a lot too. Then we come back to Germany. Hawkeye needs somebody's eyeball to access iridium that Dr. Selvig needs to build something that will help open the portal to the Tesseract. It's all kind of complicated, and just to give them something to do, I guess, in the middle of the movie. And Loki clearly loves the attention and the violence, and he's got this guy, he's choking, and everybody's screaming, and he's got like a smile on his face and everything. So it kind of shows you Loki's character a little bit more. This is probably the best version of Loki. I think this and Thor: The Dark World are really solid versions of Loki, where he's kind of more of a complicated figure, and he continues to, he's still evil, he still is doing the wrong things, but you can kind of start to see why he's unraveling and his motivations and everything. And so this is a good version of Loki. I like Loki kind of being really just the god of mischief. And then of course Cap comes in and stops Loki. And of course this is a great introduction to Cap in the new Captain America suit, because obviously he's in Germany, and there's supposed to be that reference of he was fighting the Nazis in World War II. So it's a really great way to introduce Cap. I actually like the suit. I know a lot of people don't. Yeah, is it cheesy? Yeah. Is it kind of simple? Yes. But that's not a bad thing. I still like it. I think it looks kind of cool. It is a bit too campy, and, the Star-Spangled outfit. But it's supposed to be kind of a remnants of his USO tour outfit that he originally wore in Captain America: The First Avenger. And also I think it's just kind of his reintroduction into the modern era as well. So I think it really works for this film. I don't think it would work going ahead with where we go with Captain America, but I think for this film, him still kind of bridges that gap between old Captain America and where he's going to go in modern times. So I like the suit. I know some people don't, but I think it looks fine. And I really like him fighting Loki and everything. Again, it shows Cap and as a hero. And then we get the introduction to Iron Man flying in with the AC/DC music to kind of help take out Cap. And I really miss that kind of flair that we had with Iron Man flying in with the rock and roll music and everything. We kind of lose that going forward, but Tony becomes kind of a different character. He personally kind of just loses that flair a little bit. But I really like the reintroduction here. I just think, anytime we're introduced to the heroes in their non-super uniform and then in their uniforms, I think it just works really great in this film. So I love that too. So they capture Loki, they're going to take him back, but then Thor comes and gets Loki, takes him away. Iron Man's really unhappy about this, so he goes after Thor, and then we get a cool fight between Thor and Iron Man, and you kind of see the differences in their powers set and everything. And Thor tries to, strike him up with lightning, but the suit absorbs it and says, we're at 400%, so Tony gives it back. And then it really doesn't end until Cap comes in, and Thor hits his shield, and because Cap shield's vibranium, it absorbs the vibranium, disperses it, wipes out the tree line near them, and it's kind of just a cool way to end that scene. And I just love that Cap is just like not having any of this. Cap has been in the ice for 70 years, but he is old-fashioned, but also he's a military man, and he doesn't have time for this child's play and stuff. So that's a really great scene also. And then they get Loki and they take him back to the helicarrier. So then we get Thor introduced kind of to the group, and he kind of becomes really a part of the Avengers here. And then we get a line from Fury that says, Cap says the scepter works like a Hydra weapon, and Fury says that the scepter is powered by the Tesseract. So, we now know that the Tesseract is actually the Mind Stone. Why it's blue is maybe proximity to the Tesseract, but the scepter is the Mind Stone, and that's why Loki can control people's minds and everything. My guess is Marvel just didn't have any of that planned out, but I guess you can kind of retcon it as that Fury has no idea that these are Infinity Stones, and he's just making guesses himself. So it is kind of a little nitpick, but this is, still Marvel testing the waters, and they didn't really have, the Tesseract and the Scepter really defined as being separate Infinity Stones. And who's to say that Infinity Stones don't feed off of each other's energies anyway? So it's a little detail, but I just kind of thought it was something that stood out this time, where Fury says the Scepter is powered by the Tesseract. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to note. And I really like the scene where Bruce and Tony are talking in the lab. I love the sort of back and forth between them. I know it was like a big Science Bros meme thing going on, and I really actually do miss them kind of just hanging out and being Science Bros in this movie and then Avengers Age of Ultron. And I really like the conversation that they have. Tony tells Bruce that he might have to suit up, and then I like the line where Bruce says, the Hulk saved him for what? And I think that now we know, having seen the Avengers Endgame, the role that Hulk plays, I think we know what he was saved for. So that's interesting. It could have just been like a throwaway line in this movie, a nice little sentiment, but I think it definitely plays into the overall narrative of where Bruce and Hulk go in the future of the MCU. So I do like that as well. Another cool scene is when Natasha's talking to Loki, and she's like back to her interrogation format where she's playing Loki, but Loki doesn't know it, and he's just like talking and rattling on, and she gets him to reveal that he wants to unleash the Hulk on everybody. That's just a great scene. Another good scene that shows Natasha's spy skill set. She can do more than just, shoot guns and, her Black Widow moves and stuff. She has more to offer as a spy also. So I kind of really like it. It's a good callback to her introduction in this movie. So I really like that scene as well. And of course Loki's like really mean, but he does mention a couple of things. He mentions Dreykov's daughter, which is something that we're not going to find out until Black Widow, the movie. And then of course in this, when she's talking to Clint, they also mention Budapest, which also we don't find out until the Black Widow movie. So those are kind of two things set up here that I think that they took out from here. They were probably never meant to go anywhere, but they decided to turn that into what the Black Widow movie was going to be. So that's kind of interesting when you, having seen, that movie and then watching this now. So it's a really good scene though. I really like it. It's very well acted. So I love that Cap just kind of goes off and does his own thing, and he finds these Phase 2 weapons that Fury was building. And I noticed they have the Hydra symbol on them, the little octopus thing. And I'm not sure if, knowing what we know about Hydra and the Winter Soldier, it kind of makes me a little more suspicious that maybe Fury should have caught on sooner. Or is these just old Hydra weapons that S.H.I.E.L.D. had confiscated a long time ago, and because they were originally designed to use with the Tesseract, they were going to use them again with the Tesseract. They're just kind of recycling old weapons. But it is interesting because of where S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra go in the Winter Soldier. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And then we get the Hulk versus Thor fight on the helicarrier, which is kind of awesome. I like that. I just like that whole scene where Bruce Hulk's out for the first time in the movie and he's chasing Natasha. And then Thor, stops him, and, Hulk can't pick up Mjolnir. And it's just a really kind of fun scene, and I love the scene that builds up to that, where everybody's kind of fighting and arguing with each other, and then it ends with, like, Bruce Banner holding the scepter without even knowing it. That's a really cool scene. I love the banter between everybody, Tony and Steve really going at it, and, Thor and Natasha and Fury, so that's a really good scene too. And then the fight on the helicarrier is good, and then we get Steve and Tony having to team up to work to bring the engine back online after they had just been like verbally sparring with each other. So that's also a good moment too, of them having to come together to be a team as well. So that whole scene is really great. And then sadly we get the death of Phil Coulson. Loki kills him, and unfortunately, but luckily, Coulson gets the last shot in. And I know that, Coulson comes back in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. However, that show's never referenced in the MCU, and he's never come back in present time in the MCU. He was in Captain Marvel movie, but that took place in the past. But Coulson was a fun side character in these movies. I really liked him. He's sort of a connective tissue. So it is sad that we don't get him going further, but if you want more Coulson, go watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. He's still really good on that show. But, it's kind of sad that we had to kill somebody, but it was to kind of motivate the Avengers to come together. Although I don't know if it was necessary. But then, of course, the Avengers, who are all separated, come together and team up for the Battle of New York to face off with the Chitauri army that Thanos sent down for Loki. And I love Cap taking charge. Like, he's like shouting out orders and everything, and it shows that he's more than just a physical presence. He's more than just a physical superhero. He's a military strategist. He's a leader. He knows how to give orders and make a team work together. And so I really like that. He's and he's calling out what everybody needs to do, and he says Hulk smash, and all that stuff is really fun. And I really like the team having to work together. And then of course Bruce Banner comes back in, and it's just a really good scene. The whole Battle of New York is just kind of a lot of fun. We get, Hulk punching Thor, which is funny, and, and then Iron Man makes the sacrifice play, and he, takes the nuclear missile into space. Luckily, he comes back, but it's kind of some character arc for him, because earlier Cap says that he wasn't the kind of guy to make the sacrifice play, so we get some character growth with Tony. And of course, going forward in the MCU, we know this has repercussions kind of on his mental state. We'll see that in Iron Man 3 and Avengers Age of Ultron. So this really sticks with Tony, the Battle of New York. So it's a really good battle, and I really enjoy the fighting stuff. And I like, even Hawkeye gets some cool moments here too. So it's really good. I like it a lot. And so, of course, they're able to capture Loki. I think Hulk's actually the one, he smashes Loki on the ground, and he, says puny god and stuff. And that's really fun. So that's kind of how they capture Loki. And then, of course, we'll see this moment replayed from a different angle in Avengers Endgame, which is kind of fun to revisit in that movie. So I like how they kind of wrap that up, and Thor just kind of takes Loki away. And this is just a great movie. I just have so much fun when I watch this movie. It has so many good moments. I always find something new, some little new details out of it. The dialogue is great. The action's great. The characters are great. They work well together. They work well separately. Like I said, I loved all of the introductions. And yeah, one of the best things about this movie is the quotes. It has a lot of great quotes. So here are some of my favorite quotes. I won't list them all, but here's just a few that I really like. So I love when Tony says, tells Cap to check out the electrical panel, and he's like, what's it look like in there? And Cap's just like, it seems to be powered by some form of electricity. That's something I kind of say when when somebody's talking about something that goes over my head, And then, Loki says, I have an army. Tony says, we have a Hulk. That's always fun. And also Tony says, that man is playing Galaga. He thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. That's kind of a funny, I think it was an improv line by Robert Downey Jr., and they just kept it. And that's kind of a funny moment. And then I love Cap again, where Fury, says flying monkeys, and, Thor's like, I don't understand. And Cap's like, I do. I understand that reference. That's also another fun one. That's kind of been a cool meme as well that you can say. And then, of course, I think the classic one is Bruce Banner's, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. So that's a good one, too. So there's a lot of great quotes in this. I'm bringing the party you. That doesn't feel like a party to me. That's a great line. So this movie just has a lot of great lines. I love this movie. I don't really rewatch it that much, but every time I do, I always really enjoy it. I think it's structured pretty well. It's got some flaws, sure. Loki's plan doesn't fully make any sense, but overall, the movie works so well that you don't really tend to focus on the flaws. So I really enjoy this movie. I love it. It's probably not my favorite Avengers movie, but it's still a great movie. It's definitely one of the best movies in the MCU, and it still is. And I love Captain America in it, of course, big Cap fan. So yeah, I really love this movie. And of course, we get the end credit scene that teases Thanos, which he won't really become a thing until late in Phase 3, but they tease Thanos here. And then, of course, later on in Avengers Age of Ultron, we kind of set more things up. But this is a really good movie. It does its job. It was made to kind of unite the Phase 1 films, but also, Marvel at this point was still kind of gambling with these movies. They still didn't know if this was going to be the big hit that it was, so they didn't, really set anything up for further movies with this. They kind of left it sort of self-contained, that if it didn't work, they could just end it right there. But luckily it did. Everybody loved it. It made $1 billion, and so the rest is history. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. That's my review of Marvel's The Avengers. It's also known as Avengers Assemble in like the UK and some foreign markets, but in America it's Marvel's The Avengers. And so yeah, those are my thoughts. I really love this film. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's the best comic book movie ever? Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up button. Stay tuned for more Marvel content, reviewing weekly episodes of She-Hulk. Going to continue with my MCU review. Next up will be Iron Man 3, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to support the channel in another way, be sure to check the link in the description below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Until next time, everybody, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. Bye.